Hi, hello again. It's been a bit of time, I will say. Life got a bit in the way, but hey, we're here now, and hopefully, you guys will like the new software I'm going to show you today. Okay, I ended up building it myself. So a bit of background here, real quick. So I recently bought myself a 3D printer back in early October, and I went with the Bamboo Labs P1S. After doing a bit of research, I noticed that there was people stating that, hey, this is a great printer, but because they went from open source to closed source, now it isn't such a good thing, and then stuff with like updates and a lot of the other stuff that isn't really important right now. Essentially though, I ended up wanting something that would just work right out of the box, and that one seemed to fit all my criteria that I wanted. Plus there was lots of things I could just print via their application, either phone wise or computer wise. They had I was able to go ahead and submit prints to my printer like that, and so that's mainly what I wanted. I wanted to print some cool stuff. That was it. Well, I went ahead and bought that 3D printer, set it up, put it inside my garage. Fantastic. Okay, no complaints there. However, I didn't quite read the full thing. When purchasing the 3D printer, I noticed that, hey, this thing comes with filaments already. Should I buy some more? So I thought to myself, we could, because it already comes with stuff. And so when I went onto the site in order to purchase some filament, I saw that they were like 1,000 kilogram ones. I was like, oh, the 3D printer is gonna come with one as well. Perfect. I shouldn't need to. Wrong. Read the stuff that happens here. Okay. Well, I started printing essentially with my printer. And I started printing a few things here and there. Print out a benchy, print out a little cube just to test out the printer itself. I printed out like a little phone stand so I could put on when I'm eating, I could go and put it on the table. And bada bing. Well, I tried to print something pretty big now. Okay, I started getting into Magic the Gathering recently this year, and I bought myself a playmat, and I'm like, oh, let me go ahead and print a case for that playmat, as a matter of fact. And so I'm like, okay, let's do it. So I go ahead, print that bad boy out, and once I come back to check on it, I goes like, oh, we ran out of filament. I said, what do you mean you ran out of filament? As far as I know, this is just a 100-gram print, It's nothing big for a kilogram, spool. Well, like I mentioned, I'm dumb here. I should have read. But essentially, the 3D printer did not come with a kilogram spool of filament. It only came with a 200, 300-gram one. So, well, alright, well, I think I'm going to have to start tracking my filament here, which is what I ended up creating. I ended up creating this program. I just named it Filament Tracker, and it's written in Python. Specifically, instead of having just to essentially write it inside of a text document like, hey, I printed this is how many grams I used, and just put a date on it, I decided to take a bit more of a software engineering approach and make things a bit more complicated. No, but essentially, this Python application I created, it allows for a user like myself to go ahead and track their filament. I created a graphical interface with tk-enter, and through CSV files you are able to save the jobs and the spools that you would be using. So if you would go ahead and navigate to my desktop, I'll gladly show you the program itself. Okay, so now that we're here on our desktop, we can go ahead and see that I have a folder here called testing. Okay, on here's where I have my Python script I was telling you about, Filament Tracker. So what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and navigate into that directory, and we're going to type in Python with the actual application name to go ahead and run it. So when I press enter here, we will see that, hey, this is the graphical interface I was mentioning. Whenever you just run it on the command line here without any arguments, it will automatically create the CSV files you need. So the filament spools and the log for like all the jobs you'll be doing. So on here we have a tab for the jobs of the 3D prints you'll be doing and the spools. And if you do the drop down here, if you have any spools, it will show right here. So for instance, let's go ahead and add a spool. So when we add one, it will say, hey, what do you have? We have PLA, PTG, ABS, ASA, whatever you want essentially, or you can do other, and you can actually type in whatever other filament you have. I typically only work with PLA, so I'm going to type in that one. On here, yeah, the same thing. You can put in a color you want. If you scroll down, you can also put other. If that color isn't there, you know, you can put in whatever you want. I typically run white. And typically with Bamboo Labs, they're only 1,000 grams, 1 kilogram spools. So that's left by default. And I left here a little place for notes. That way, you know, like if you have anything you want to state about this filament, maybe, you know, how old it was or whatnot. Typically, I just put in here when it was open. So when I opened it, so open, what's today, the 2025, 11, 10, okay? And from here, it's just a randomly generated thing. It's just the spool hyphen the date hyphen and then just 000. And it auto generates whatever you want. Just so in the event that I add like 5 different spools in one day, it's not all called the same. Anyway, so we press OK, and we can see here that our spool has been created. It's 1,000 grams. Here are the notes, color, material, and the spool ID. Once we create it, we go ahead and press save. From there, now we should be able to go ahead and reload it, and you should now see, oh, there it is. There's our spool. Now, when we want to go ahead and create a job, so whenever I go ahead and print out something via the application of Bamboo Labs, here is where we'll go ahead and now navigate to jobs. And here, typically on Bamboo Labs, there's like a price, some grams. I didn't really bother much with the price because I'm not selling any of this stuff. So I'm like, you know, forget about the price. But that maybe in the future, I can put in the price of how much it cost me. That way I can know roughly how much things cost me for printing them. Essentially here though, we go ahead and, for instance, if I printed out a benchy is like a little boat that you print in order to test how good your printer's doing. And so essentially, bench. Those things typically take like what, like 15 grams, you know, give or take. I don't remember how much it takes, but we'll put 15 grams for now. And so we are going to start that print. So on here we have the initial one, success, failed, or pending. The reason why I put in it is because sometimes whenever you put in new filament, it like extrudes some out, and so that takes a bit of loss. And so that's why I put it in it there. But other than that, you would normally just have a success, failed, or a pending. And so right here, we are pending because it's currently being printed. And so on here, you should see the spools. And so that's the spool that we just recently added. When we press OK, we will now see that this new job has been added. We go ahead and save it, reload it. There it is. So now here, we have a total of 15 grams pending on this 1,000 grams here. Let's say, you know, it's elapsed everything. The bench you printed out perfectly fine. Everything went great. Perfect. So now on here, all I do is just edit this line, click success, and boom, immediately updates the amount of grams we've used. So we go ahead and save it. And now whenever I were to close this and then open it back up again, we now see that, hey, our job is still there. Our spool is still there. And if you click on the spool, you can see the amount of filaments we still have left in grams. And so on here, you can go ahead and add as many spools as you want. Here's another one. Press OK. Another one. We'll make it orange and save them. There it is. So now on here, once you do a reload, of course, you will now see that all 3 of them have been added essentially with the IDs of 1, 2, 3. And then on here, you can create different jobs of exactly what you've done. So play mat case, Magic the Gathering, and then it's gonna be like 140 grams. It's a pending one, and we're gonna paint it in black. Okay, save it. There it is. So now when I reload this and I go here, we can see that 140 grams are pending for this spool here. So this has the ability to have for multiple spools and track for different jobs essentially. So yeah, so this is what I've been up to recently after that whole little accident that happened to me with not reading how much filament I had in the spool when I printed out a project. But now at least I know an estimate of how much filament I have in this with this program now in my spool. But yeah, So overall, wait, there's one more thing I forgot to mention. Okay, after reviewing the video footage, I noticed I never talked about what happened with a failed filament, project thing. If one of my 3D prints fail, I never showed you what happened. So let's go ahead and navigate to the desktop again. You can see here that right now we would want to add a job. So let's say this is going to be a failed test. Okay, failed test. It was 120 grams, and we're going to mark it as failed, and it failed on the first spool. Okay, you're going to save it. Oh, it tells you right there we need to add the lost grams. So therefore, sometimes there'd be times that I would print something and it would only finish. For instance, this scenario where I try to print something but it failed because it ran out of filament. So I reached 94% of the way completed. So if the project takes a total of 120, I guess you just have to estimate how many grams you've actually used on there. And so that's where this is more like a approximation program and not very specific, when it comes to these failures, unfortunately, because there's no way of me finding out of how much grams I still need to go. At least in the program, I don't know if I haven't found the value that tells me how much grams I've used. I've only seen the value of like, hey, this project will take 120 grams to complete, and that's it. Doesn't, at least when I've checked it, I've never seen like, hey, this is the amount of grams it's used as of right now. So because of that, there's a bit of guesswork here. And so if it, for instance, if it elapsed like 94%, I guess, we will put like what? If it's out of 120, I would have said, it's roughly 110, something like that. Okay. So I would have lost 110 because it did not finish the actual job. When I press OK here, we will now see that there's a failed job here. If we save it, reload it, and we pull up the first filament here, we should now see that, hey, total potential was 135, so it's just adding the last one and the first one, which 120 plus 15, 135. And so from here, you can see the total consumed is 125, but we lost 110. And so that's the thing. But yeah, so overall, not too bad, not too shabby, if I do say so myself. It's just, what should we call it? Yeah, overall, this is how we do the failure one now. And now, we can see roughly how much each spool has. And done, essentially. Alright, so with that being said, now we could go ahead and sign off. And thank you for coming with me and allow me to show you guys the new software I created. Thank you once again for sticking by, and this is El Bueno Tech signing off. Bye.